Quando Rondo and Lil Durk's beef is getting even worse just days before Durk's trial. After years of violence between their camps, Quando's side reportedly reached out to finally make peace. But Durk's camp rejected the offer, and what they said instead has only added fuel to the beef. Let me catch you up. Let's start with the moment that's got everybody talking right now. According to a federal filing reported on by my mixtape has, prosecutors claim a Quando Rondo affiliate reached out to end the beef with Lil Durk, who allegedly rejected the peace offering. The alleged response wasn't a handshake, it was a warning. The filing quotes the reply as telling the other side to take the piece of the switch. Street language for a warning shot, not a truce. Think about the timing here. This isn't some old text message dug up from years ago and forgotten. This is landing in the middle of pretrial litigation, weeks before Durk sits in front of a federal jury. Prosecutors don't just drop details like this by accident. When the government wants to show a defendant's state of mind, wants to prove intent, wants to prove this wasn't some one-time flash of anger, but an ongoing campaign. A rejected peace offer is exactly the kind of detail they reach for. It tells a jury this wasn't a misunderstanding. Somebody tried to end it, and the answer was no. So who are we talking about here? On one side, Durk Banks, the Chicago rapper known as Lil Durk, a Grammy winner, the founder of the Only the Family Collective, one of the biggest names in drill music over the last decade. On the other, Tyquan Bowman, known as Quando Rondo, a rapper out of Savannah, Georgia, who built his own lane with hits and a loyal fan base, and who has spent years now living under the shadow of a rivalry that took his cousin's life. The two men have never resolved anything face to face, at least not publicly. What we do know is this: prosecutors say Banks used coded language to hire a group of alleged hitmen to travel to Los Angeles and carry out an execution-style killing, with the intended target being Bowman, whom Banks allegedly blamed for the 2020 shooting death of his friend and protege, Davon King Von Bennett. That's the foundation the entire case sits on, and now with a peace offer allegedly extended and allegedly refused, prosecutors have another data point to argue this wasn't self-defense or misunderstanding. It was a choice to keep the conflict alive. The shooting tied to all of this happened years ago, but the fallout keeps piling up. Prosecutors allege the gunman tracked Bowman to Los Angeles and ambushed him at a gas station near the Beverly Center, firing at least 18 rounds from multiple weapons, including a machine gun. Bowman's cousin, Saviah Robinson, was struck and killed while standing outside a black Escalade linked to Bowman. Robinson, known to friends as Lil Pab, was 24 years old. He wasn't the target. He was standing in the wrong spot at the wrong time, and he paid with his life. That's the human cost sitting underneath every legal filing in this case. Every time a new detail drops, a rejected peace offer, a new witness, a new indictment, it's not abstract legal maneuvering. It's connected to a young man who died outside a gas station, and to a rivalry that prosecutors say never really ended, even when someone allegedly tried to end it. Now here's where it gets more complicated. The rejected peace offer isn't the only development making this beef look like it's escalating. Instead of settling down as the trial date creeps closer, there's new evidence, new charges, a co-defendant fight over separate trials, and even Quando Rondo's own legal situation, intersecting with all of this in ways nobody saw coming. We're going to walk through all of it, piece by piece, so you understand exactly how we got to a courtroom in Los Angeles with the stakes as high as they are. But first, it's worth sitting with what this rejected peace offer actually represents in the bigger picture. Prosecutors aren't just trying to prove a shooting happened, they're trying to prove a mindset, a refusal to let go, a decision to keep escalating even when there was a door open to stop. That's the thread we're pulling on for the rest of this story. To understand why a peace offer would even be on the table, and why prosecutors think its rejection matters, you have to go back to where this entire conflict started. Everybody points to the same night. Investigators believe the plot against Quando Rondo was retaliation for the earlier murder of Chicago OTF rapper King Von, who was killed during an early morning exchange of gunfire outside the Monaco Hookah Lounge in Atlanta. King Von wasn't just a label mate to Durk, he was a close friend, a protege, someone Durk had helped build up as one of the faces of Only the Family. The shooting stemmed from the November 2020 slaying of OTF rapper King Von, 26, at an Atlanta nightclub after Von and Rondo got into a fight. And records say a friend of Rondo's pulled a gun and shot Von several times, killing him. Von died at the scene. He was 26 years old, and at the time of his death, he had 2 hit singles climbing charts, records that would go on to define a certain era of Chicago drill music. For Durk's camp, That night became the origin point of everything that followed. Federal investigators allege that in the aftermath, authorities say Durk made it known that he would pay a bounty to anyone who killed Rondo. That's the allegation sitting at the center of the entire murder-for-hire case. That grief and loyalty turned into a financial incentive for violence, one that prosecutors say sat out there for almost 2 years before anyone acted on it. Almost 2 years later, a murder plot quickly came together, according to the federal complaint. Whatever conversations happened in between, in group chats, in songs, in whispered plans, prosecutors say they eventually turned into something concrete: cars, travel, weapons, a plan to find Rondo in Los Angeles and finish what the bounty had promised. This is also where the beef stopped being abstract and started splitting fan bases down the middle. When Durk was finally arrested, federal agents arrested Durk in murder-for-hire charges in Florida, connected to the 2022 murder of Quando Rondo's cousin, Saviaya Robinson, in Los Angeles. Online, the reaction split almost instantly along loyalty lines. Fans of NBA YoungBoy, an artist with his own long-running tension with Durk's camp, piled on immediately, with some writing variations of wanting one artist freed while the other stayed locked up. Others pushed back just as hard, defending Durk and turning the blame back onto Rondo's circle for what happened to Von in the first place. That online split matters because it shows this was never just a legal case. It was a fight over public sympathy too. Every arrest, every filing, every court date became another round in an argument that fans on both sides refused to let go of, mirroring the exact dynamic prosecutors say played out between the camps themselves, an unwillingness to lay the conflict down. Durk has never admitted to any of it. Durk has pleaded not guilty and is seeking to be released on bond since the earliest stages of the case, a position his legal team has held throughout every hearing since. But the government's version of events, the bounty, the 2-year wait, the plan finally executed at a gas station near the Beverly Center, is the backbone prosecutors intend to put in front of a jury. And this is exactly why the alleged rejected peace offer matters so much to the government's case. If the origin of this conflict was a bounty placed out of grief and loyalty over Von's death, prosecutors need to show that bounty didn't fade with time. They need to show the anger stayed alive, that it was still active enough in more recent years, that someone from Rondo's side felt the need to reach out and try to end it, and that the answer, allegedly, was still hostility. That single alleged exchange becomes a bridge connecting 2020 all the way to whatever happens in that Los Angeles courtroom. The legal fight over how much of this history the jury even gets to hear has been its own battle. Prosecutors wanted King Von's death front and center as motive, and largely got their way. The government also links the narrative to the 2020 killing of King Von outside an Atlanta nightclub, with the judge allowing jurors to view surveillance footage and hear testimony related to that death as plainly relevant to motive. So when the trial opens, the story the jury hears won't start with the gas station shooting. It'll start with Von's death, exactly like prosecutors want it to, exactly like the alleged rejected peace offer suggests the beef itself never really let go of either. If the roots of this beef go back to 2020, the fight to actually get this case in front of a jury has been its own saga, dragging on for close to 2 years now. And every delay has come with new evidence, new charges, and new reasons prosecutors say. This conflict hasn't cooled down at all. Durk was arrested in October 2024. From the jump, the case was framed as complicated. Federal charges accused him of paying for the attempted 2022 revenge killing of rapper Quando Rondo at a Los Angeles gas station, and 5 other members of his Chicago-based rap collective. Only the family were also arrested, with at least 2 more arrests forthcoming. That's not a 2-person case. That's 6+ defendants, mountains of evidence, and years of alleged history to sort through. The trial date has moved more times than almost anyone following the case can count on one hand. It started with a plan to go in January 2025, then got pushed toward October, then January 2026, then May, then April, and finally landed where it sits now. U.S. District Judge Michael W. Fitzgerald ruled that the case would proceed jointly and set a trial date of August 20, 2026, after arguments from several co-defendants who wanted their cases split from Durk's, rejecting those requests and emphasizing that defendants accused of participating in the same alleged conspiracy are typically tried together, since much of the evidence would overlap regardless. Durk's team fought every single delay. A jury trial for Durk and his co-defendants has been repeatedly pushed back, first from October to January, then to April, each time over Durk's objections. His attorney Drew Findling made it clear his client wanted this over with, telling reporters at one hearing that the team would have been ready to go in 2 weeks, but that the court decided everyone together still wasn't there yet. Meanwhile, behind bars, Durk's conditions became their own story. He's been denied bail every single time he's asked. Reports surfaced that he'd been placed in solitary confinement over an Apple Watch found in his cell, and his legal filings painted a picture of a defendant confined to a cell barely bigger than a bed, a toilet, and a sink for 23 hours a day, with no commissary access, and only one phone call a month. On his birthday behind bars, he posted that he was thankful to still have a voice, working on himself, and working toward peace. Language that stands in stark contrast to what prosecutors say his camp told Rondo's affiliate when peace was actually offered. The government's case has also grown teeth as the trial approached. New indictments kept adding weight. Prosecutors expanded the scope of allegations, with investigators now referencing an unreleased music video allegedly depicting Durk shooting at a figure resembling Quando Rondo, and on June 4, a third superseding indictment was filed in California, adding counts related to conspiracy to commit stalking and murder in aid of racketeering. Durk's team pushed back hard, calling it an attempt to prop up claims that hadn't held up, insisting their client remains innocent, regardless of how many indictments get thrown at him. The court has also ruled on what jurors will actually get to see and hear, and the decisions have mostly favored the prosecution. The court found messages admissible, concluding they're relevant to prosecutors' argument that Durk led a conspiracy involving interstate facilities to carry out murder for hire, resulting in death, a charge that carries the possibility of life imprisonment. That's the number hanging over everything. Life in prison, not a fine, not a few years. Life. Not every ruling has gone the government's way, though. Prosecutors had tried to use Durk's own lyrics against him early on, alleging he'd referenced the killing in a song that fell apart under scrutiny. An indictment filed by prosecutors removed prior references to lyrics it was alleged Durk had used to commercialize Rondo's death, after Findling had argued the song in question was released 8 months prior to Bowman's death. At a hearing, Findling called it provably false that his client had monetized and celebrated the killing at the heart of the case, and for a moment it looked like the government's case had lost a chunk of its foundation. But federal prosecutors regrouped and kept adding new material. Prosecutors plan to call multiple cooperating witnesses to the stand alongside the government's existing evidence. Witnesses alleged to have been involved in the ordered violence connected to Durk, and prosecutors allege Durk planned to offer a cash reward to whoever carried out the killing. Cooperating witnesses are often the most damaging thing a defendant can face. People who were allegedly inside the plan, now testifying against the person who allegedly financed it. Every delay, every new filing, every witness announcement has kept this case, and this beef, in the headlines for going on 2 years now. And as the actual trial date has closed in, the temperature hasn't dropped. If anything, each new development, the rejected peace offer chief among them, has made it look like both camps are still very much in this, right up until the moment a jury walks into that Los Angeles courtroom. While Durk's case has dominated headlines, Quando Rondo hasn't exactly been sitting on the sidelines untouched by his own legal troubles, and his situation adds another layer to why this beef looks like it's intensifying instead of settling right before trial. Rondo has spent time in federal custody himself. The Savannah rapper walked out of federal prison and into a halfway house in Atlanta after serving 15 months of a 33-month sentence for drug conspiracy, having pleaded guilty to conspiracy to possess and distribute marijuana back in 2024, avoiding a much harsher charge that could have landed him 20 years behind bars. He started that sentence at a federal facility in South Carolina and was ordered to pay a fine on top of the time served. His release didn't mean he was free of this story, though his release marked a turning point in one chapter of his legal saga. Yet he remains entangled in a far more serious case involving his rival Lil Durk and the 2022 shooting that claimed his cousin's life, meaning Rondo would remain in the legal spotlight regardless of his halfway house placement. He's not a defendant in Durk's case. He's the intended victim, according to prosecutors. But as a witness, and as the person whose cousin died, his presence looms over the entire proceeding. Rondo's public tone, at least in the past, hasn't matched the hostility prosecutors say came from Durk's camp. Back when Durk was first arrested, Rondo posted a message reflecting on the toll of the street life connected to his industry. He wrote about not wanting to stay trapped in that life, about families and communities counting on people in his position, about carrying forgiveness for anyone he'd had issues with, closing it out by saying it was all love from him, and that life goes on. That's a very different posture from what the government alleges came back when peace was actually floated between the camps years later. That contrast matters. If Rondo's own public statements lean towards stepping away from the conflict, and prosecutors are now alleging his camp reached out directly to try to end things, it paints a specific picture for a jury. One side allegedly extending an olive branch, the other allegedly answering with a threat about a switch. Whether that's exactly how it plays out in court remains to be seen, but that's the shape of the story prosecutors appear to be building. None of this happens in a vacuum either. Durk hasn't been quiet about his own family losses during this stretch, and the case against him references a separate tragedy, the 2021 killing of his brother, Dante Banks, that prosecutors in a related Chicago case say fueled Durk's own alleged willingness to offer money for retaliatory violence. The affidavit alleges Lil Durk was and still is offering money for people to kill those responsible for his brother's murder, including gangster disciple members. That detail, while separate from the Rondo case directly, has been used by prosecutors to argue a pattern. That violence for hire wasn't a one-off idea, but something they say recurred whenever Durk's camp felt wronged. Put those two threads together, an alleged pattern of ordering violence in response to loss, and an alleged refusal to accept peace when it was offered, and you start to see exactly why prosecutors think this rejected peace offer is worth including in their case at all. It's not just color. It's meant to show intent, motive, and an unwillingness to let go, mirrored on both sides of this rivalry in different ways. One side allegedly trying to move on publicly, the private legal record allegedly telling a very different story about the response that came back. As the trial date landed on the calendar, both camps found themselves living very different realities. Rondo technically free, but still tethered to the case as a witness and a victim. Durk, locked up, facing a possible life sentence, watching new charges get piled on with each passing month. The beef didn't need public shots fired to stay alive. The paperwork alone was doing that work. So here's where things stand, as the trial actually gets underway. Lil Durk faced a federal jury in Los Angeles as planned, after a judge rejected prosecutors' bid to delay the case further by loading it up with fresh charges tied to alleged gang activity in Chicago, with the case centering on a 2024 indictment accusing Durk of putting a bounty on Quando Rondo. In retaliation for the 2020 killing of King Von, the judge made clear the case would move forward on the date set, brushing aside any further attempts to push it back. That means everything we've walked through, the rejected peace offer, the years of delays, the superseding indictments, Rondo's own legal chapter, the cooperating witnesses lined up to testify. All of it funnels into a courtroom happening right now. Durk's trial got underway after months of pre-trial litigation over the scope of the government's case, with the presiding judge previously severing newly added racketeering-related counts from the proceeding while keeping the murder-for-hire case on track. That means jurors won't be asked to untangle every single allegation the government has piled on over 2 years. Just the core one: did Durk orchestrate a plot to kill Quando Rondo that instead killed his cousin? The stakes for Durk personally could not be higher. If convicted, he faces what prosecutors have made clear is a mandatory sentence of life in federal prison on the top count. There's no scenario here where a conviction means a slap on the wrist. This is an all-or-nothing moment for a man who spent close to 2 years locked up without bail, watching his case get more complicated with every new filing. For the co-defendants, the stakes look similar. All of them denied requests to have their cases separated, meaning they'll stand trial together, facing whatever evidence and witness testimony the government presents as one unit. Their attorneys had argued that being tried alongside Durk risked unfairly attaching his alleged history and reputation to their individual cases, a request the judge rejected on the grounds that the evidence overlapped too much to make separation practical. For Rondo, the stakes are different but real in their own way. He's not on trial, but his name, his family's grief, and his own account of what happened that day near the Beverly Center are central to everything prosecutors present. Whatever verdict comes down will shape how this entire rivalry gets remembered. Whether as a story where the system finally caught up to an alleged years-long campaign of retaliation, or as a case where the government overreached on a defendant who always maintained his innocence. And that peace offer detail, the one that kicked off this whole conversation, sits right at the center of how the jury may end up viewing motive and intent. If prosecutors can convince 12 people that someone extended a genuine chance to end this conflict and got a threat in return, that's a hard image to walk back in a defense's closing argument. If Durk's team can cast doubt on the source, the context, or the reliability of that alleged exchange, it becomes just one more piece of evidence in a case built on thousands of pages of it. What we do know is that neither side has walked into this trial acting like the beef is over. The government's own filings describe an alleged rejection of peace as recently as the run-up to trial, not as some relic from 2020. Durk's family has kept showing up to support him through hearing after hearing. Rondo's own path, prison, release, halfway house, back into the spotlight as a case connected to his cousin's death finally goes before a jury. Shows a man who never really got to close this chapter either, no matter how many times he said publicly that he wants to move forward. Whatever the jury decides in the coming weeks, this case will stand as one of the most closely watched in recent memory. Tying rap rivalries directly into federal courtrooms, it started with a bounty allegedly placed after a friend's death in 2020. It grew through a shooting that took an innocent cousin's life in 2022. It dragged through nearly 2 years of delays, new charges, and legal maneuvering. And as recently as the lead-up to trial, according to federal prosecutors, an attempt to finally put it to rest was met not with agreement,